Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sustainable Success 2.0 live event. It is finally here, and I'm so excited to deliver this event to you. If you are brand new to me, my name is Kristen Boss, and I'm so excited to serve you over the next 3 days. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, you can find me at the Kristen Boss. I also have a podcast where I deliver a ton of free value weekly that you can tune into. So if you haven't subscribed already, you can go ahead and do that. The podcast is called Purposeful Social Selling. You guys, I hope you're ready for an action-packed 3 days. I'm going to be giving you a lot, so I hope you're ready to take notes. Couple things I want to cover. First of all, some of you have been following me for a long time. This is not your first event. Maybe this is your second or your third event. Actually, I'd love to know if this is your first event. Let me know in the comments. I actually have a screen here where I can see where people are tuning in from. Say where you're tuning in from, and if it's your first event or a repeat event. Central Michigan, hey. All right, Maine, South Carolina. Let's see, is that Wisconsin? I think so. Awesome, second live event, first live event. So fun. We're gonna have a lot that we're gonna unpack together in our 3 days. There's a couple things I want you to know so that you have you get the most value out of our time together. You were given a pre-worksheet to really go through and ask yourself some questions in order to prepare you for this event. I was incredibly strategic about the questions I gave you, how I want you thinking, and really getting you into the right frame of mind in order for you to really absorb and consume the most from this event. So we're going to have the replays up until midnight on the 1st. So be sure to prioritize your time to watch them. We are not extending that timeline. Also, tomorrow is the last day for people to join and enroll in this. So we're closing the doors tomorrow night. So if you have team members that want to come, you better make sure that they know what's up and that they get in here before we close the doors. That way, we want people to have plenty of time to consume the material. I know you're excited, but I don't want you binge watching through it and just kind of hoarding and consuming and in this like frenzy of consumption. What happens when we're in that state is we actually retain less. And in order for this to go into your long-term thinking and for you to actually implement and for things to change from here on out, you need to slow down. You got to calm down. If you're a student in my academy, you know my favorite saying, you got to calm your butt down, because it helps you think differently, creatively problem solve, and really get the most out of this event instead of being in that really heightened state. I get it. I know it's fun, but I want you to kind of just settle in. We're going to have a great 3 days together. Something else I want you to keep in mind is you also were given this workbook for the live event, and I have questions in there for you to cover after you've watched the live training. And on day 1 and 2, I even have questions for you to lead your team through for team discussion. If you are a leader, this is a phenomenal time for you to have awesome conversations with your team and create great follow-up conversations and make sure that you're all on the same page. I also want to acknowledge it's been unbelievable how many people have joined in just the last 12 hours. We have skyrocketed past 10,000 registrants. We're likely going to be at 11,000 in just a few hours. You guys have just really blown this out of the water. And I love that so many of you are getting your teams on board, getting your cross lines, your sidelines, so that you all are focused and on the same page together. That's so important. If you have come yourself, if you have come without a team, don't worry. This is still for you. No matter what season you are in your social selling business, whether you are a veteran and you've been here for years or you're brand new to the industry, there's so much here for you. And really, this is about setting you up for sustainable success. It's really easy. It'd be so easy for me to hype you up and get you thinking about sprinting to success in your first 90 days of 2022. And from your excitement, that might sound really great, but I'm not interested in you sprinting your first 90 days of 2022. I'm interested in you developing sustainable habits for you to have long-term success. I'm not interested in you burning out. I'm not interested in you feeling like you need to take a break or that you're not with your family or that your business becomes all consuming. This is truly about creating sustainable and lasting success. That's not why it's not called the success sprint. So if you brought your sprinting shoes, you're going to want to take them off because we're going to have a marathon mindset here. We're all about longevity. And I promise you, if you learn to play the long game, if you learn to play the infinite game, and that's what I'm going to teach you about today, this entire business model and your experience of the business model will change. If you have experienced burnout, maybe you're there now. Maybe you're coming out of a season of burnout. You're 100% in the right place. Burnout happens when we are not operating with sustainability and we're more about intensity and speed. And I actually think that does far more detriment to your success than it serves you. And we're going to talk about that. Over our 3 days together, we're going to talk about the exact things that get in the way from you creating massive results in your business. When you did that pre-worksheet, that pre-evaluation worksheet before you started this event, the reason why I had you look back and reflect is for you to truly understand where you are coming from. But most people, they don't take the time to reflect, to evaluate, to really examine what was happening in their business. And oftentimes it's because they're afraid to look at the information, they're afraid of the story that they might have about the results they saw for the year. Most people, when they see how far, here's the thing, most times you look at your goal and where you want to be, and you can tend to get caught up in not being there yet. You'll tend to think, my results aren't that great. I have so much further I want to go. I didn't hit the results I thought I would hit in 2021. I'm so much further than where I thought I would be. I thought I would be further along. And we're going to talk about the detriment that thinking does to you. So what happens is with the reflection and the evaluation, I'm helping you acknowledge your wins. I'm helping you see just how far you've come. And when you do that, it actually creates dopamine in your brain, and you're able to creatively problem solve for what you need in the future. It helps you create a plan of action. This is actually a really amazing concept that was taught by Dan Sullivan, and it's called focusing on the gap in the game. And so this is what typically happens that I see people do in their business. This is where they are. There's them. Hi. If we want to maybe zoom in a touch here. There we go. Perfect. So most people, when they are looking at, actually, I drew my person way too far ahead. We're going to have to flip the chart. Hold on here. All right. This is you. And this is, the goal, where you want to be, maybe that rank or whatever else. This is the future. And I'm going to even call it, oftentimes we think this is our goal. And what this is usually painted in is idealism. We tend to be extremely idealistic about where we want to go. And our future and our goals tends to be like the horizon. We see it ahead of us. And what happens is when we're focused on where we are, this is the now, and this is somewhere off in the future. This is what we want. What happens is the distance here, this is called the gap. And far too often, I see entrepreneurs and people in business caught up in the gap, constantly looking at where they could be, where they want to be, and they're sitting at the now. What happens with this is when a lot of people feel emotional despair and defeat. They tend to beat themselves up. This is where I see people start to say, I thought I would be further along right now. They start to feel extremely discouraged. They start to judge themselves for not being further along. If this has been you, this is because you've been kind of living in the gap. This is by Dan Sullivan. Okay. And I put a happy face there, but that's actually wrong. I have never, in all of my time in coaching, seen somebody who is looking at this idealistic future, constantly chasing the future, constantly chasing, it could be better. I want to be better. I'm not at that rank yet. I'm not at the goal yet. It creates a lot of negative emotion. It creates despair. It creates defeat. It creates discouragement. And this is actually when I see people abandon their goals. This is why most people quit, is because they're here, right? And so what actually changes is when you develop a different way of thinking. This person has a happy face. This is when you look at yourself now versus then, and acknowledging just how many, this is known as the gain. And this is acknowledging how far you've come. This is what the evaluation gave you before you started this event. This is why I had you really get honest with yourself and look at the data, look at the numbers. Here, when you are in the gap, your brain will almost always lie to you. It'll always diminish your goals. Your brain will always tell you it's not working, something's gone wrong, I'm probably failing, the numbers aren't great. Your brain is almost always lying to you. It's important that you know this, okay? But here, and actually this creates a stress response, right? Being in the gap. In the gain actually helps you see, it gives you contrast for how much you have grown. And what this does is it creates a positive emotional response in your body and in your brain. It actually releases dopamine because you can see a metric of your success. Always measure against your past self instead of the future that you are always longing to create. And I say this, I start this whole 3-day event like this. I start it with you understanding this philosophy to shift your thinking now. Because if you've come to this event and you've been in the gap, beating yourself up because the goals feel so far away, because it feels impossible to you, because you're telling yourself, I thought I'd be so much further along and 2021 was so hard. I read so many of your comments about that. And what's so fascinating is a lot of you, after you did the evaluation, after you did the reflection, you finally were able to acknowledge your gains. And for maybe the first time, you felt proud, you felt accomplished, you felt motivated, and you thought, wow, maybe there actually is potential for me. But here's the thing about the gap. The future is always ahead of us. Our idealistic future, it's like a horizon. And we think we can see the end of the horizon, but no matter how far we traverse, the horizon is always moving. So is your idealism. So is what you want in the future, which is why if you live here, you are going to be miserable. And by the way, when you get frustrated with how long this gap is taking, that is an invitation for hustle. That is an invitation where you start thinking, I need to work harder. I need to put in more hours. I need to do all these things. And we start hustling because we think hustle closes the gap. Now I'm going to tell you that's wrong. It only creates misery for you. All right? So I really want you to be aware of where you are, where you have been this past year. How often did you find yourself in the gap? How often did you create time for you to reflect so that you actually were in the gain? By the way, the gain actually releases dopamine. I said that, right? Here's what happens. When your brain is in a positive state, it's 30% more efficient. It's 30% more adept at problem solving. This is why it's so important. You become somebody who teaches yourself to be in the game. Notice how I say teach yourself, because we are not wired to live in the game. We are wired to live in the gap. We're always wired to see what else, what more, and how can I get there? So over the 3 days, I'm going to be teaching you about why you keep getting into the gap and why that is sabotaging your results, how to get into the gains. And I'm going to talk about the 3 things that's keeping you from having lasting success in this business model. The reason this is called sustainable success and why I teach this philosophy. Some people will tell you success loves speed. I'm going to tell you success loves sustainability. It loves consistency and it loves intentionality. A lot of you think it's because you didn't move fast enough or didn't throw enough action at it. And you're constantly living in lack, thinking, I'm not enough, I didn't do enough, and I need to do more. And you're constantly beating yourself up. And maybe the business has felt miserable. I'm going to tell you a statistic that to me really helped cement in my philosophy and why I teach the way that I teach, why this isn't a 90-day sprint, why this is about teaching lasting sustainable habits. 50% of people who join network marketing will quit in their first year. 95% of people who join this business model quit in 10 years. I have a problem with that. But here's what you need to know. The flaw is not with the business model. This is an invaluable business model. The flaw has been in how we approach the business model, how we set goals, how we have used the business model. And if you learn to sell this as a sustainable way of living life and doing business, people will stay. You will stop seeing this turn and burn culture. But as long as we make speed the most important facet, we're just going to keep burning people out. And you're going to constantly feel like you have to bring new people onto your team. You're going to constantly feel like you're replacing people, and you're going to wonder, why does nobody want to work? It's not that people don't want to work. It's that people have gotten tired. So we have to figure out sustainability, which is exactly what I'm going to be teaching you. Another thing that you need to know is with this idea of, the turn and burn culture and people, joining and then quitting. Here's what I want to tell you what has happened since 2019. Okay. And I think it's going to help a lot of you understand what happened in the social selling industry this year and what you can look forward to in 2022. In the year of 2020, as you know, the pandemic hit. And what happened was it opened up people's eyes to possibility, to options. What they are calling what's happened in the last 2 years, they're calling it the Great Resignation. People are leaving for options. People are leaving for flexibility. This business model, it was like people became woke to it in 2020. We had people coming in droves, thousands of people. And a lot of you may have seen massive momentum in 2020, right? Because while that was amazing, while it opened up so many people's eyes to the possibility of the options and what this business model could mean, it was kind of a double-edged sword that happened there. This business model, a lot of people joined when the world was shut down. When their priorities, they didn't have a lot of competing priorities. Their kids weren't in school. They didn't have to chauffeur to all these events. Suddenly the world got a lot smaller. So a lot of people thought, might as well make money. I'll do this. So we saw a ton of people come to this industry. And then in 2021, what happened is that people started having competing desires. They started realizing now they had to actually prioritize a business. Whereas in 2020, it was easy to prioritize it because nothing else was going on. Now in the year of 2021, there was competing desires. People had to learn to prioritize growing their businesses online. And I really want to caution you, the story you might be telling yourself about what has happened in your business, good or bad, because of the pandemic. I've had people say to me, my business has suffered because of the pandemic. We had to go to online and we were used to doing belly to belly and in person. And because we can't do it online, it all went to crap. Or the other side is so many people joined this business in 2020. And then once life got back to normal, it was impossible to sell this business. You're giving all your power away to circumstances. I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing getting in the way of the results you want in your business is not a circumstance. It is 100% you. You are the common denominator for all results you create in your business. And that is one tough pill to swallow. Why? Because it no longer allows for you to blame what's going on with the economy, to blame what's happening with the pandemic, to blame what's happening with your company comp plan or that company or this or what your team is doing or what you're doing. You are always 100% in control of your results, even the results that don't feel good, that you don't like. And while that is a tough pill to swallow, it's also extremely empowering. Why? Because you are the person that can also change it around. It empowers you. Because if you can get results you don't like, once you create awareness around it, once you believe you actually do have a say and you have influence and you have impact and you can steer the ship, you actually can believe that you can control what happens in your business. But so many of you, I see so many of you believe you're in this reactive state, believing that your business is happening to you and wondering why things aren't working. When you move from victim in your business to being the true owner of your business and owning all the things and taking full responsibility, everything in your business will change. And also everything in your personal life. Because when you're willing to take radical responsibility and radical ownership, anything is possible. Which is why I wanted to talk today about the number one thing that is getting in the way of your success and your results. It's you. I call it the law
of your identity. It's the limitation of your identity. It's how you see yourself. It's how you think about things. And there are massive flaws with how people set goals, with how they approach goals. And I'm going to talk about the goal missteps that I see most people make when they set goals that actually ends up them setting them up for failure. And I don't want that for you. I'm going to tell you what doesn't create success in your first 90 days. You ready? It's not time blocking. It's not a content calendar. It's not 90 reels in 90 days. It's not doing a 30 message a day blitz, but you think it is. I know I see this over and over. People get so excited and so motivated for the new year, and they make these big, bold promises to themselves. This is the year I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to take myself seriously. It's going to be so great. And they go to Home Depot, they buy the planners, they buy the highlighters, and they tell themselves, I'm going to time block. And listen, that is not what creates your success. That is not. And a lot of people, I see them do that because they think it's the strategy, it's the what. If I find the right tool, then I can finally figure it out. By the way, it's no different than weight loss. There's a reason why so many people declare a weight loss goal in the new year and then go into the gym March 1st. It empties out. Why is that? Why is it that people can make a shopping list, say this is going to be my caloric intake, this is going to be my macros and my all these things, and I'm going to set this time in my calendar, right? You can do the things. How many of you have done this? How many of you have said, I just need a time block. I just need to be consistent. I just need to show up. If it was that simple, you would be there by now. It is not the what. You think it's the what. And what I mean by that is you think if I just calendar out this in the right way, if I just approach this in the right way, I'll finally get there. No, I can literally hand you a book step by step with everything you need to do in this business. And actually I do have that inside the academy. You can have the framework, you can have all those things, and I can hand it to you. But unless you learn, you ready, to manage what's going on up in here, none of it matters. None of it matters. Consistency is not an activity. It is your way of being. It is your way of thinking. And in order for you to become someone who is consistent, you need to become somebody who knows how to manage and direct your mind that is wired to constantly default to the negative and what's not working. You not being consistent isn't because you didn't, time block your day accordingly. It's almost always because you are believing a story that isn't serving you in the moment. You're believing no one in my audience is paying attention. Does anybody even really want this business model? The algorithm, it's not working for me today. Consistency always starts with a story we tell ourselves. It is always the belief we carry and the belief we carry about ourselves. Listen, if this is the only thing you learn, if this is the only training you watch and that you apply and you do the things, you're going to see results in your business. Because it really is. In this industry, I hear a lot of people say, mindset, I'm going to work on my mindset and I'm going to work on my belief and I'm going to do it. But nobody actually takes the tools and does the things. They don't know how. They just think if I listen to another personal development podcast, if I do affirmations in a mirror, if I do a gratitude journal. I see so many people do the things, but they haven't figured out the why behind the things. So here's what I'm going to tell you. With the limit of identity, and I have to consult my notes here because there's a lot we have to talk about, okay? When we are in low belief, a lot of times that determines how we set a goal. And I really want you to determine right now, I want you to ask yourself and evaluate, are you using this business model to meet a temporary need? Are you trying to close a certain income gap in a certain period of time? Are you trying to get out of your 9-to-5 that you hate and that you want to switch out? Are you looking to the business model to fill a temporary need? Or are you looking to the business model to create a long-term sustainable financial asset for your family? It's so important that you figure that out and discern that now. And let me tell you why. If you are looking for it to meet a temporary need, you're going to constantly look for temporary motivations to fuel you in your work. And as soon as you meet the temporary need, as soon as that happens, You'll either burn out, you'll drop it, or you won't know why you're working this business anymore. And most times, here's the truth, most times when people have a temporary need that they're seeking to meet with this business model, it almost always creates an unsustainable speed. Temporary need creates an unsustainable speed because we're always looking to fix the lack we feel circumstantially with our paycheck. And we believe that if we just throw a ton of activity at it and we go as fast as possible, we'll just get out of our uncomfortable circumstances quicker. And that's when I see people burning themselves out over and over and over. So you have to ask yourself, am I treating this as a career or is it just a hobby? Is it just something I'm doing to just make a couple $100 here? Or am I actually in this business model for passive and residual income, for time freedom? So many of you have joined this business because you love the flexibility, you love the options, you love the passive and residual income, you love the idea of time freedom. I'm going to tell you right now, time freedom and passive income is for people who play the long game. You have to have a long-term mindset. It doesn't happen overnight, but a lot of people work like it is. And they set goals from that place. And that's where I'm going to call it a hustle goal. There's two types of goals. There's a hustle goal and there's an aligned goal. Okay. The hustle goal is usually when you are trying to outmaneuver any lack you feel in your life. You're throwing a lot of activity at it. Your speed is really important. And let me tell you something. The fastest way to suck all the joy out of your journey is to be in a hurry for your results. Almost every time I see someone quit, take their foot off the gas, is because it's not happening fast enough. And they feel owed like it should be happening faster. And they're frustrated that it's not happening faster. I want you to think about this. How often have you been frustrated because you don't think it's happening fast enough? Again, that's being in the mindset of the gap rather than being in the mindset of the game. But you cannot be in that place where you're constantly thinking, why isn't this happening fast enough? And so I see people set these huge, lofty, hustly goals, and then they exhaust themselves and they burn out. And what happens is they either fall short of the goal and they think, I exhausted myself and I didn't get there anyways. Why bother? Why bother? Whereas an aligned goal is when your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions are all aligned with the goal you have set for yourself. You're taking the daily actions. Your mindset is aligned with that. An aligned goal never feels desperate. It doesn't feel scarce and panicky in your body. I want you to notice that if you have set a goal and it makes you feel desperate and scarce and panicky and needy, and every sales conversation feels like tightness in your throat, and you take the no very personally and it feels like rejection, it is likely because somewhere along the line, hustle entered into that goal. And I'm telling you, the moment hustle comes into the goal, it strips all the joy out of it. It strips the learning out of it. And you become what you don't want to be. So many people come to me and say, I don't want to feel inauthentic. I don't want to feel spammy. I don't want to feel salesy. And I say, then you have to remove this feeling of lack that you feel when it comes to selling to your audience. And in order to do that, you have to shift how you are thinking. You must set an aligned goal. Okay? I'm going to talk about, and here's the thing, before I move into that, is a lot of you might be feeling extremely motivated and excited. I love that for you. But I'm going to tell you right now, motivation is crap. It's going to last you maybe 2 weeks. Do you know where it takes you? It takes you to Home Depot. It has you buying the highlighters, it has you consuming the podcast, has you hyping everything up. And then when life happens, in less than 6 weeks from now, life is going to happen. Motivation is gone. Have you ever found that when it's on a hard day, motivation is nowhere to be found? It's nowhere. We can't find it. I'm going to tell you right now, I hate this concept of being a motivational speaker. I'm not going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to teach you about commitment, because commitment will get you so much further than motivation will on any given day. But most people don't know how to work with commitment. They know how to work with motivation, and they believe they need to feel good in order to pursue their goals. So I'm going to talk about the most common missteps when setting goals. The first one, and I'm going to write it over here for you guys. This is missteps to goal setting. 2 S's? I don't know. You guys are gonna have to deal with my typos today. All right, number 1 is behavior modification. And I kind of oh geez, vacation. You guys try spelling in front of like thousands of people live. It's real fun. All right, behavior modification. This is when I see people clinging to the strategy. They'll jump from one thing to the next. They're thinking like, okay, if I just do the time blocking, and if I just do the content calendar, and if I do the 90 reels in 90 days, they're very stuck on what to do, right? And with behavior modification, they lack the why behind the activity. They're only focused on the what and the how. I'm going to give you an example of that. When people say, I want to be consistent, I want to do consistent content, I want to show up on my platform daily, what happens is they're focusing on the what. And this is where I see people get stuck on the what and the how. Well, I need to be consistent, and how I'm going to be consistent is time blocking. Or I'm gonna deliver content, and how I'm going to deliver content is a content calendar. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's only a part of the equation. What they are missing is the why behind these things, right? So when people say, oh, I'm not being consistent, they fail to ask why. They fail to ask, why am I not being consistent? Why am I not honoring the time block I have set up? Very few people sit down to ask that question. They haven't solved for, but why am I not honoring my commitments? Why am I not posting? You know to post. Here's the thing. You already know the what. You know exactly what it takes to have success in this industry. You know exactly what it takes. It takes showing up consistently online, building relationship, networking, making powerful offers about your business or product, and doing it over and over again, and then teaching others to do the same. It's that simple. It is that simple, but you have a brain that overcomplicates it, thinking, I must be missing something. I'm afraid to do it wrong. We have perfectionism that gets in the way, right? This business is simple, but you have a brain that makes it complicated because you're overthinking, you're judging, and all those things. But everyone stays in the what and how. They never focus on the why. Today is the why. Today I'm giving you the why. The why is not because you haven't figured out the time blocking. The what is not because you haven't figured out how to nanny your kids, or figure those things out, or you haven't meal planned, or you don't wake up early. That's not the answer, but you think it is, which is why you keep bouncing from that training to that training and that expert to that expert, and all you've done is confuse and overwhelm yourself, wondering, am I ever going to figure this out? People are the same way with dieting. They think, well, now I need to try keto. Now I need to try paleo. Now I need to try Weight Watchers and Noom, and what's another one? Intermittent fasting, right? People keep going to the what and the how, thinking like, okay, intermittent fasting, how am I going to do it? I'm going to do this. I'm going to meal plan. Do you know how many people I see? They buy the calendars, they buy the content things, they buy the things. But unless you get to the why, asking the question, why am I not showing up? The answer is always a belief. Always. It is not a circumstance. It's not because someone on your team said something to you. It's not because of the algorithm. It's not because, you switched from a party business to a, direct sales business. It's always a belief. Your beliefs determine your outcomes, always, without exception. But a lot of you think you're what? Think the content calendar, this thing. If I just have the right strategy, that'll create the results. I'll tell you right now, there are people that are sitting on the right strategy and they're still not seeing results. Why? Because they don't know how to manage their beliefs. They don't know how to manage the stories they are telling themselves. When you understand this, honestly, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to ruin every training you ever go to now, because what's going to happen is you're going to notice your tendency when your belief is low to want to latch on to one of these. And you're going to keep chasing this. Some of you, Instead of getting busy, focusing on your beliefs and taking the action, you end up hunting. You go on a how hunt or a what hunt. You're like, I just need to go watch another training. I just need to do these things because then maybe that'll have the answer. You already have the answers. It's right here between your ears. And I know it sounds so simple, but it really is. It's also not easy to manage a mind that is literally wired to always go to worst case scenario, because worst case scenario, this is just your primal brain protecting you from inevitable danger. And by the way, your brain sees failure as a danger, because failure in our Paleolithic caveman days meant certain death. So your brain is like, nope, something new, something different, can't do that. Try something new and it doesn't work out, definitely can't do that. Failure, death, can't. What you have to be willing to do is be somebody who embraces uncertainty. A lot of you think, okay, fear is stopping me. Fear is definitely what's stopping me. I need to do the brave thing, right? It's not fear. Your brain is wired to desire one thing, and that's certainty. Your brain wants to feel certain. It wants a predictable outcome so that it can adjust accordingly. Tell you right now, nothing in business or life is certain, but you have a brain that says, I cannot take any steps forward unless I am certain this is going to work for me, unless I am certain that I'm okay. And then a lot of you get caught up in like, okay, well, let me do more research. Let me just perfect this a little bit more. Let me just go and do this even more, right? But you have to be willing to embrace uncertainty and to take action and to keep going. And then with enough action, you make it certain. You become more certain yourself. You create certainty with decisive, consistent action. So this is misstep number one. They think, I need to do the what and the how. They get caught up in checklists. Listen, you have income producing trackers. You have things that say, this is how you make money. But the only reason you aren't seeing the results, it's right here. It's the only reason. The why. It's what you're believing. It's what you're telling yourself. Stories you entertain on any given day. Okay. Misstep number two. Okay. Kind of talked about it earlier. You believe you can meet your goals through motivation. And this is the most harmful, impossible standard to have of yourself. Because life is 50-50. Life, one day, you'll be having a great day. And then the next day, one of your kids gets sick. Your boss says something changes. Some hater comes along and trolls you on your account and you're derailed for days. You think motivation is present when everything in your life seems to be going wrong? When everything in your personal life, nothing seems to be going well for you? But so many of you think you need excitement. You think you need enthusiasm. I'm even going to put here, you think you need high vibes. I'm going to tell you right now, this alone creates inconsistency in your business. Anybody can work when they're motivated. Anybody can work out when they're motivated. How many of you make plans from motivation? Then you wake up in the morning and life happens, right? And it's nowhere to be found. But you've trained yourself to only show up when you're feeling these emotions. And what happens, what I see people do, instead of learning to work from a grounded feeling of commitment, they go off to find other things in hopes of, getting their excitement up. They're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to a motivational pep talk. I'm gonna go and listen to a podcast. I'm gonna go and listen to, this psyched up music or whatever it is, right? And you waste the 45 minutes listening to a podcast when you could have learned to find the feeling of commitment and show up in those 45 minutes and work your business. Motivation is the most unsustainable fuel in your business. And you're going to feel all kinds of, I guarantee right now you feel so motivated. You're like filling out these notes and you're excited to be here. You're tagging your friends. I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to get you to January 10th, if that, maybe. And then life's going to happen and you're going to feel discouraged. And you're going to, put 3 hours into a reel that gets 5 plays and you're going to feel devastated. I've been there. You're going to be putting out new content. You're going to be doing brave, extraordinary things. And you're going to step into the gap again and think, why isn't this happening for me faster? Why aren't people reaching out to me? Why am I not getting 50 messages about this amazing product post I did? Why is this not happening? Because you keep chasing motivation instead of learning to work with commitment. It feels so different. Motivation is a very exciting, light, fluttery feeling, but it's not reliable. It's not there to stay. Can we commit today to leave motivation behind? Because it's not going to serve you. Motivation is inconsistent, and so if you are fueled by motivation, your business will be inconsistent as well. Okay, the third is what I'm going to call this is called linear optimism. Number one thing I see people do is when they set a goal, is they think, so many of you, when you look at the next year, 2022, you think it's going to be so much better. I'm so excited. Everything, we tend to lie to ourselves and think we're going to be less busy. It's going to be less complicated. It's going to be easier. No, it's not. It never is. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is like, when life settles down, when I'm less busy, or maybe this, how long have you been saying that to yourself? How long have you been using that line on yourself? Next year is going to be easier. It's going to be less busy, right? No, it's not. But here's what happens is I see people set goals. I see people set goals. This is money. This is time. And this is literally, you can be in denial all you want, but I've coached thousands of people, and I know this is how most people set goals. This is what they expect their growth to look like. I'm going to have steady increase of income every single month. And they're going to think everything is going my way. I'm going to have content calendars. I'm going to be time blocked. Nothing's getting in my way. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., right? This is not reality. This is not real life. I can tell you right now, years in business, a lot of money in revenue. This is not real life. This is life. And it could be, and I call this was in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and it's so good. I can draw you two charts here, but this is called latent potential, right? And so here, I want you to notice here, looks like nothing's happening for maybe a long period of time. Look, we'll just let's assume this is, 1 year from here to here, and maybe here is 3 months. This is what I also teach in my academy. This is the law of compounding results. Here's what happens. This line right here is where you think you should be. This is where you're telling yourself, oh, I really thought I'd be at that rank. I thought I'd be bringing in this much money. I thought I'd have this many leaders. I thought I'd be doing these things, right? This gap right here, where you thought you would be, where you are actually be, that gap, most people give up. Most people do. Most people think it's not working. I should try something else. Maybe I need to find, you know what? That looks like, I like that planner. That planner has that thing. Oh, maybe I should try what they're doing over there. We compare, we despair, we look at what everybody else is doing. We live in the gap instead of looking at the gain, noticing there's actually steady growth here, that if you just stay consistent, look at what eventually happens. You have compounded results in a much shorter period of time. This is what happens, but most people I see give up here. James Clear calls this the valley of despair, the valley of disappointment. Are you willing to experience that? Are you willing to traverse that valley? Maybe you've been there, but it's when you're in a hurry, it's when you're telling yourself, I should be further along, that you check out. You stop showing up consistently. Motivation's definitely gone there, right? It's easy, man. It'd be really easy to be motivated with this, being like, look, I'm always going up. This is amazing, right? But here's the thing. Business is also that's what you think it is, linear optimism. Right? That's actually what it looks like. But most people think something has gone horribly wrong here and here. They think something's terribly wrong. I need to change my strategy. Their belief plummets. But the person who stays committed, because here you're not feeling motivation, doesn't feel good. But the person who taps into commitment, they keep going. They focus on the gains. They look at like, oh my gosh, but look at how much further I've come. I've still grown. I've still grown. Look at that, right? And linear optimism is also just assuming that your life is going to be hunky-dory. You assume that there's not going to be crisis. You assume there's not going to be personal things that come up. And I'm going to tell you right now, personal things are always coming up. Your family's always going to need you. Someone's going to need you. There's going to be crisis. If you're telling yourself 2022 isn't going to have crisis, you're going to have a rude awakening at some point. Here's kind of the double-edged sword with this business model. You come for flexibility. And I love flexibility. But some of you use it to your detriment. I don't have to show up today. It's fine. Maybe when it's easier. I could not. Right? But your results, the results you want comes from 1,000 decisions that felt extremely inconsequential at the time. That felt like you could just take a day off and no one notices. It's kind of like with eating, with health, right? We can have one cupcake. With this one cupcake, will it ruin my goals? No, it's a cupcake. It's fine. It's a cookie. But if we keep telling ourselves every time we pick up a cookie, it's fine. It's just one cookie. It's fine. And then you eat 15 cookies every single day for 30 days, then yes, your results are going to reflect someone that said every cookie they ate, it's not a big deal. This is kind of what you do in your business. I can take my foot off the gas and it's fine. It's fine because it's here and it's flexible and it's great. And you weaponize the perks of this business model to sabotage your growth. I see people do it. They're like, well, I make my own time and I'm my own boss. I'm like, yeah, but what kind of results do you want? You have to decide. You still have to decide, yes, flexible or not, but you're still doing the work. And how many times are you tapping out and saying, it's kind of, when it gets too hard, you're telling yourself, I'm fine. It's fine. I'll get to my goal eventually. I know someday I'll get there. And what you've done is you've removed a healthy sense of urgency from your timeline and you start waiting. You ready? You start waiting for the results to happen to you. They will never happen to you. Results don't just happen. It's never an accident. And if you're a leader that's been telling yourself you're an accidental leader, you're an accidental business owner, we need to divorce that story today. Because nothing is ever by accident. It is always with intention. It is always with choice. It is always how you choose to show up. So it is not by accident. Your results there are not by accident. Okay? Lastly, and I gotta pick up my cap here. And I'm wearing really tall heels. Okay. Lastly, last goal misstep is what I'm gonna call reactive real-time strategy. You are constantly reacting to, what is this, number 4? I believe so. This is where 90% of network marketers operate their business. 90% of you. And this is people who only think in 30-day timelines. They're not thinking ahead. They're reacting to what is happening around them, what's happening on their team, what's happening in their business, right? They feel this. You want to know how you're here? Is if you constantly feel like your business happens outside of your control. If I were to say, hey, let's go for a rank up, and you were to say, well, depends if my leaders show up. Well, it depends. I can't really control that. I can't make people show up. We're all going to cover that, by the way, on day 3. Oh, just you wait. But they tell me, can't happen, Kristen, because A, B, C, D, and E is why I can't do it. Another circumstance outside of me, that circumstance outside of me. No, you don't understand. It's a historically low sales month in my company this month. Or no, you don't understand. The reason why I was able to rank advance is because we had a huge company incentive last month. Again, that's not believing you're in full control of your results. You're believing you have to have success because of a flash sale. Or you're believing your team's only motivated when they're incentivized by a flash sale. And so what happens is when you become Reactive in your strategy, this is when end of month feel like a horrific push. You have the midnight push, you're frantic, you're scattered the last 10 days of the month, you're a stress case about to have a hernia because you're like, oh crap, we got to get the numbers in. Oh boy, I just checked my back office and look at where the numbers are. Quick, everybody rally. And you're rallying everybody, freaking out, your hair's on fire. And if you feel like you need to take a nap at the beginning of the month, this has been you. And it is time. So there's these emojis. I see people like, ooh, I'm being called out. Listen, I don't pull any punches because I really want you to have results. And I'm known for delivering really hard truth that you need to hear. I'm not here to just make it fluffy and light. I'm here to give you real actionable tools of why you're not seeing results. Right here, this reactive strategy. Constantly, you're not in control of your business. And this is an extremely disempowering, very stressful place to be. And when you're here, it's very easy to micromanage your team and to be in a place of this will have you in a place of fear all the time. Hustle lives here. Hustle always lives here. Okay. So these are the goal missteps. I'll read them to you again. Behavior modification, motivation fueled, linear optimism, and reactive strategy. And by the way, with reactive strategy, zero reflection happens here. If that pre-worksheet was the first time you did an in-depth evaluation like that, and you're like, oh, dang, I learned a lot, I saw a lot, it's because likely you've been in a reactive state and constantly living in the gap of where I'm going, instead of acknowledging your gains, getting clear, becoming proactive, believing that you're in control of your results. Because so many of you, when you don't have the right results, will say, well, my team didn't show up. 15 people quit. This happened. Life got crazy, right? All of that out of my control, out of my control. Business is always going to feel out of my control, right? We're only reactive when we believe nothing's in our control. Okay? Love that. Someone said I'm divorcing, end of month pushing. There's a much better way to be, I promise. All right. Next, what you need. So what kind of goals, what does healthy, aligned goal setting look like? You ready? Infinite commitment. Infinite commitment to a finite goal. Some of you have very finite commitment to a finite goal, to a deadline. I know so many of you will do these 90-day pushes. You'll declare a goal and you will go all out. You're all in. And you have insane commitment to a short window of time. And then come 90 days, you're like, I'm exhausted. I need to take a break. I'm tired. And this is when I see people say, you know what? I need to go and like focus on my family. I need to take a break. I need a mental health rest. But listen, all of those things, like caring for your mental health, being present with your family, caring for your body, having hobbies, all those things, there is allowances for that when you have infinite commitment. You bring balance to your business. And I know some people say there's no such thing as balance, and you can call it juggling, but you're still prioritizing many things. But with the infinite commitment, that is when you are in when you're in finite commitment. When you're in infinite commitment, you have the marathon mindset. If you don't hit the goal in the timeline you want, you just push out the timeline of the goal to a place where it's still urgent. But some of you, when you don't hit the goal, you just take your foot off the goal and you move from like, okay, it has to happen at this time to eventually it's going to happen for me. I'm just going to stay with the activity. And you completely take the foot off the gas with a sense of urgency in making the goal happen. You move from like, I'm committed to the goal to like, you become apathetic and ambivalent to the goal. You know, oh, well, it'll happen for me eventually. And that's when I see people hiding in activity and they move into managing their business. If there is no urgency for a goal, a healthy sense of urgency. I'm not talking about scarcity and hustle and lack and those things. I'm talking about a healthy sense of urgency and saying, I'm all in. I'm all in on me. It's not, I'm all in on the result and all in on the timeline, being all in on you. You have to have infinite commitment. And when you have infinite commitment, you're not burning out. You don't feel like you need to take a nap the first of every month. You don't feel like you need to take a vacation from your business. You don't feel emotionally strung out. Okay? I want to tell you, when you have commitment, feels so much different than motivation. And commitment is the product. You ready? You're going to want to write this down. Commitment is the product of a disciplined effort that eventually becomes an effortless habit. Commitment is the product of a disciplined effort that eventually becomes an effortless habit. And I can tell you that is 100% true. Discipline doesn't feel fun because discipline wakes up and says, I'm doing it anyways. I don't feel good. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel confident. I don't feel excited, enthusiastic on March 11th when nothing fun is happening. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to find commitment. I'm going to discipline myself to show up. And eventually, that discipline becomes this effortless habit where you don't even have to think twice about showing up for your business. You don't have to think twice about making a post or posting a reel or following up with your customers. Everything changes. It is a disciplined effort until it becomes effortless habit. TM, you can give that credit me with that. All right. The next is you need a healthy sense of strategic pessimism. And what I mean by that is problem solving for things that will come up ahead of time. Understanding that life isn't always perfect, that it's not linear, it's never linear. And anticipating roadblocks, anticipating things not going well, problem solving before the problems happen. This is the complete opposite of being reactive. This is being proactive. It's asking, what could possibly get in the way of me committing to this? What could possibly get in the way of me working my business consistently? And how am I going to solve for that now? But so many of you, because you made a linear, optimistic goal for yourself, and you thought it was going to look a certain way, that when you hit a road bump, you're freaking out and you don't know how to solve for it. And you're in this reactive, oh no, I'm not going to be able to hit my goal now. And you start spiraling because you didn't anticipate that there were going to be obstacles and roadblocks. You must, but most people don't, right? Spending the time to do that. The next. Okay, this is the next. We might go a touch long today, guys. The replays will stay up, don't worry. Permissive growth. Permissive growth is you allowing yourself to be a human who makes mistakes, who sometimes fails, who gets it wrong, who doesn't hit the outcome or doesn't hit the goal on time. But so many of you have zero permissive growth for yourself. You're too busy beating yourself up, judging yourself, shaming yourself for why you didn't get there faster, why you didn't do that. And what's fascinating is most people, when they beat themselves up, they think it serves them. They think if I beat myself up enough, I'll be motivated to go and do the work. It's no different than someone who is beating themselves up in a mirror and saying, look at you, you're disgusting, and I hate how you look, thinking that that will motivate them to get to the gym and work out. Sure, I mean, I guess if you want self-loathing to be your fuel, but only lasts for a couple days because we're trying to fix what we're frustrated with, right? And from this, when we're not being permissive, when we're not allowing the whole spectrum of human emotions in our business, when we're only saying, nope, excitement, confidence, enthusiasm, and motivation are the only emotions that are allowed here, what happens is you expect yourself to be a robot, and that's just not human. You need to have an allowance. You need to have a lot of compassion and a lot of grace and a lot of curiosity. When I had you do the pre-worksheet, I said, you must invite compassion and curiosity to this exercise. If you are hiding from your numbers, hiding from your data, not checking your back office because you tell yourself that it causes anxiety, you tell yourself it freaks you out, it's because you haven't created permission for you to be a human who sometimes doesn't get it right. But this is where perfectionism creeps in. Perfectionism creeps in when you have no permission for you to maybe get it wrong, for you to try something, for you to put something out there and see if it works. Okay? Radical ownership is number 4. And I kind of alluded to this earlier. You must make yourself the common denominator of every result you see. You have to own your results. You can't be in the place of blaming and believing things are happening outside of you all the time. You have to take ownership of what's going on in your mind and the stories you're telling yourself. You have to take ownership of the fact that, wow, I have this pattern where I keep hunting for the what and how. I keep going on this, hunt for this magical strategy, and I keep landing in the same place. Why is that? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's not, trying to find, somebody else who's promising this 30-day magical rank up thing. Maybe it's me. Maybe I have to work on me. Right? Last. Reflection and evaluation. All right. You have to embody this as a regular practice in your business. With my 6 and 7 figure earners who are in my mastermind, this is something I have drilled into them. They do this every single month. I walk them through an evaluation process so that they are always fine-tuning what's going on in their business. This is for everybody. This is a high performance habit. This helps you acknowledge the gains, helps you get into a positive thinking. This also helps reveal the plan for what you need to do moving forward. But you can't develop a plan if you haven't learned from what you have already done. But so many of you are just blindly going out being like, I'm just going to figure this out and try this thing and do that. And you stay in a really low belief cycle. I'm going to explain to you what happens when you don't set these goals. Ready? Don't worry, guys. If you didn't write it all down, it'll be in the replay. Don't worry. Okay. Listen, all of your results, there's 2 types of behaviors that happen in your business. HBB and low BB. High belief behavior and low belief behavior. Your behaviors are always, your actions, what you do is always determined by your beliefs. Always. That's how it works. You have a belief. From that belief, that creates a certain emotional response in your body. If you're believing, I'm never going to get anywhere, I don't have what it takes to have success in this industry, that's going to create the feeling of, defeat and despair. And from defeat and despair, you take the action. So we have an emotion. Then here we have a behavior. And from the behavior, we create our results. You are always creating results. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you like the results you're creating? You create all your results. From here, belief creates an emotional response, and then you have a behavior and then results. Part of learning to turn the bus around when you are not seeing the results you want to in your business is you have to get to the beliefs. You have to understand, what story am I telling myself right now? When I asked you in your evaluation, I said, what were you telling yourself when things weren't going in your favor? Were you telling yourself, nobody pays attention to this anymore, my audience isn't responding, I don't have a good niche, I feel clueless online, right? So it's high belief behavior, low belief behavior. It's really important that you understand what your high belief and your low belief behaviors look like, because this happens on a subconscious level. Most of the time, you don't even know you're engaging in a low belief behavior. So in your homework today, you're going to kind of do work to identify, what are my low belief behaviors? What do I do when I'm not believing that people want my offer, that I can help somebody make $100 in this business, which, by the way, every single person on here can. I don't care how long you've been in this business. You can help somebody make $100 online like that, right? But the stories you tell yourself determine the actions you take. So you need to get very clear on, let me give you an example of a belief. If you believe, no one's my audience isn't paying attention. My audience, let's do the story. My audience isn't paying attention to me, right? They don't care about what I'm offering. That creates a feeling of despair, discouragement, disappointment. So no one wants this. And so many of you, this feels true to you because you keep entertaining the thought and then you go out and find evidence to support it. So no one wants this. despair. Maybe you feel hopeless. And when you feel hopeless, maybe you don't post, or you post sometimes, maybe once a month, maybe. You become sporadic. You don't make powerful offers. You don't talk to people about what you do. Some of you just show up and you show up online. You're like, I'm showing up. I'm doing reels every day and I'm talking about my life. I'm like, yeah, but are you talking about your business or your product? No, because no one wants it, right? So they don't talk about it. Right? This right here is low belief behaviors, right? Don't talk about it. And then guess what happens when you're not posting, when you're not talking about it, when you post sporadically and sometimes? Low or no sales. And then what you do is you weaponize this and you use it as evidence to say, see, look, no one wants it. And you stay in this cycle, you stay in this thought loop, and you keep creating this result for yourself. Again, radical ownership. You take results for this. You created this result, not the algorithm. It's not because you don't have a sparkly personality. It's not because you didn't go viral on Reels. By the way, you don't need to go viral. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about influence. Yeah, so if you're like no sales, you need to look at this. You need to understand, what are my low belief behaviors? And what am I doing? And again, behavior modification is you trying to fix this. Bear with me here. When you're in, I need to do behavior modification, what you're looking at is you're thinking low or no sales, and you think, I need to post more. I need to do a content calendar. I need to just make sure I'm showing up. And you've put all your focus here while still holding on to this detrimental story. This is acting like a robot. I'm going to do the things while I'm holding on to this belief that feels awful. And when you feel inadequate, unsure, this, of course, you're going to feel spammy when you sell, because you think no one wants this. Who wants to sell something that you believe nobody wants? You think selling is going to feel fun? This business is going to be miserable if you continue to believe this thought. But this is what happens. And this is where you think, wait, hold on. Let me just put content calendars here. Let me just time block. Let me just listen to a podcast episode. Let me listen to one more training. Let me do this. Surely that will fix no sales. Wrong. This is the only thing that fixes no sales, period. Period. How the stories you tell yourself determine the results you create. That is why today is about the limit of identity. How you have approached your goals, how you have gone about your goals, how you've done linear optimism, how you keep thinking, if I just do the right thing, I'll figure it all out. I'm like, no, you got to think the right thing, friend. But you have a brain that is designed to always be telling you what's going wrong, what's not working. You have a brain that's always going to default to the gap, just like I talked about at the beginning. And everything changes when you stop setting these high, lofty goals, thinking that you're going to just throw a ton of action, put more hours, work harder, find all these things. Listen, if you're telling yourself more hours and working harder, that's a hustle mentality. Hustle is what we do when our belief is low. When our belief is low, we think, if I just become a flurry of activity, I can force the outcome. How many of you have tried to force the outcome? How does that feel? What results have you created when you're in a place of forcing the outcome because your belief is in the crapper? You think, you've been telling yourself, yeah, mindset, but I just got to find the thing. Just tell me what the magical 90-day reel thing I got to do, or the magical thing I got to say, or the script I got to say. I could hand you a script, but if your belief isn't there, you still won't get the result. You have to do this inner work. You have to change the way you think differently. The beliefs you carry, the place you are in when you set the goal. And for God's sake, please stop being in a hurry for your results, because that will strip all the joy out of this journey. I want you to ask yourself how many times you wanted to quit because you didn't get there fast enough. I know, and this is why people leave. This is why people give up. This is why that statistic is true, because people set these lofty, hustly goals. They don't do the right work. They don't do the mindset. They just think if I just do this thing, I'm going to guarantee my result. And then they think it's the business model that's broken. It's that. It must be, I did the wrong thing. Nope. This is an extraordinary business model. There's no business model like this in the world that's accessible, that offers this much to people. People are coming to this business in droves. That should excite the hell out of you. It does for me. And I get messages all the time on my Instagram, people saying, I quit the industry. I've been listening to your podcast. I'm coming back. And there are so many more people coming. There are so many people coming. So listen, that's kind of what we've wanted to cover for today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the limit of influence. Today, we kind of talked about like the ceiling you put on yourself with your identity, the stories you tell yourself. Tomorrow is the limit of influence. We're going to talk about how you show up online, how to create something called the plentiful pipeline. So you're never out of leads, never chasing people, never feeling gross, awkward, being like, oh, please listen to me. Please listen to what I have to offer. No one likes that. I'm going to teach you how it can feel authentic and joyful and fun and purposeful and intentional. Tomorrow's all about influence. So if you're thinking, I need a bigger following, or I need to go viral, or there's something I'm doing wrong, you're going to love tomorrow. It's going to be great. I'm going to say this one last thing. Some of you have been following me for a long time. I do have something called the Social Selling Academy. I'm going to go in depth about it. Don't worry. Don't stress yourself out. But listen, we've started a book bonus, the Social Selling Academy. We're starting a brand new 90-day challenge. It's not a 90-day push. It's not a sprint. It is everything you need to create consistency and sustainability in your business. The Academy gives you the why. It gives you the what, the how, and the why. It helps you unlock all the things that keep you in your horrific pattern of creating the same result over and over again. So we have a book bonus right now of something called the Goal Getter Journal. It's a 90-day self-coaching journal. When you join the Academy, and I'm saying this for people that have been following me for a long time, that want to jump in, that want to be a part of our 90-day challenge. It starts on January 3rd. I know my podcast said January 1st. January 3rd, we kick off. When you join, you get this printed and mailed to you when you join. For those of you who have questions about the Academy or about the Goal Getter Challenge, I promise you on Thursday, I'm going to give you all the details you need to help you decide if that's a good fit for you. Otherwise, and by the way, the bonus starts today, okay? Otherwise, we have a lot more things to cover. It's going to be another action-packed 2 days. This was just such a blast for me, and we will see you guys tomorrow at the live. Bye.